this is how you build labor rates. You go in here and you pick the different categories of labor. For instance, you can pick, you got general foreman, foreman, journeyman, and then the different levels of apprentice, all the way down to classified. And you put your own rates in here, and you got straight time, time and a half, double time, and then it comes up with a crew rate. So like here you got a foreman, and you put a journeyman, and let's say you put an apprentice, and then that gives you a 3-man crew with a crew rate of 48.33. So you fill in the rates for your own labor categories, and then you just build your crew from there. And you got sheet metal field labor, you got the shop labor, you got HVAC piping field labor, piping shop labor, plumbing field labor, and plumbing shop labor. Just pick your crew and it'll automatically pick your crew rate. And that'll be shared throughout the whole spreadsheet once you pick the crew rate. And then you have your general conditions tab. In here you'll find your management team. You have senior project manager, project engineer, construction manager, superintendent, quality control, scheduler, safety manager, estimator, administrative assistant, purchasing agent. You put whatever you want in here, whatever your normal management crew looks like, and then you pick the duration of the how long they're going to be there. You got this little calculator for duration over here on the side. You can put how many months they're going to be on the job, and then whether it's full-time or part-time, how many hours per month they're going to work. That's a full-time basically there. So that gives you, for 6 months, it's 1,002 hours. So let's say your project manager is going to be there for 1,002 hours. And then you got to put the rate. What's your rate? Let's just say 125. So that comes up with 125,000 for a 6-month period for your project manager. So this is an easy way to calculate your management team. And then down here you got non-recurring costs, your MOB, demob, whatever it's going to take to mobilize on the job site. Get your office trailer out there, get your storage bins out there, whatever that mobilization, and then demob when the job is over. And then you have your recurring costs. These are the costs that occur monthly when you have to maintain a job site out there, whether it's the office trailer, utilities, office supplies, telephones, whatever occurs every month to maintain a presence out there on a job site. And then you got travel and subsistence. Basically, this is if you're working outside the area and you maybe have to rent a hotel for your project manager, or you have to pay you guys extra money to drive farther, pay their food for the day. And then after that, you got your rentals tab. This is where you put all the rentals for the project. Here we got scissor lift, crane, storage containers, dumpsters, forklifts, backhoe, welders, groovers, boom lifts. You just list your normal rentals here, and then you can just store your typical rental rates in here, so you don't have to fill it out each time. So you just do the duration. How long are you going to have that rental out at the job site? So you would put in the quantity of months and whatever the rental rate is for that particular equipment, and then it'll automatically calculate your total cost. So, and then how many scissor lifts? Maybe you have 2. So for 6 months. And then at the bottom here we have the crane. This most likely you'll just get a quote from your crane rental company, but if you want to, you can budget it on your own. If you have an idea of what size crane you're going to use, how long does it take for the travel to the site? They usually charge you for travel time. And then to mobilize and demobilize, that is to set up the crane and to take it down, let's say 2 hours. And then rigging time, how long is it going to take you to actually do the rig? 4 hours maybe. And then the combined rate. What is the rate? What do they charge per hour for that 40-ton crane or whatever size crane it's going to be? And then you're going to have permits and traffic control. If you're rigging on a public street, you're going to have to pay for permits, or you're within an airport zone, you're going to have to get a permit. Street closures, same thing. If you have to close the street, you're going to need guys to do traffic control. They got long boom fee, counterweight fee. These are because they got to bring out extra trucks to bring the counterweights out. Field charge, miscellaneous. Anyways, this is another way to budget crane. Otherwise, just get a quote. Then your next tab will be your subcontractors tab. This is where you'll list all the subcontractors. In this case, HVAC insulation. This just works just like a lot of the other sheets. You put in the name of the company that's bidding the job, put in the quote amount, and the spreadsheet will automatically pick the low bidder, and then list any exclusions, like he excludes inserts and your other bids, and bid by Steve. You can put the contact name just for a quick reference, and then as you can see, it picks the lowest bid, but you can always override it and put anything you want in there, and whatever you put in the plug or quote, the yellow box there will be the number actually carried. And then you just go down, you got plumbing insulation, air and water balance, controls, water treatment, then you got categories for miscellaneous and other. The other category is cumulative, so whatever you put here is not going to pick the lowest bid, it's just going to add all these up. These are not comparative, these are just extra subcontractors that you need to add in. So whatever you put here will add into the total bid. And then your next sheet you'll deal with is your HVAC equipment. So basically you're going to go to the equipment sheet on your drawings, and you're just going to start filling out taking off all that equipment and filling it out here. Because on here is where you're going to put the comparative price between vendors and where you're going to put the labor, the unit of labor it takes to install each one of these pieces of equipment, including the start and test time and the balance time. So here you just list the size of it. This will help you labor it. When you come back maybe and labor, you can labor it now, you can labor it later, but you got 5 tons, you got 5 of them. Let's say it takes 4 hours of sheet metal, 4 hours of pipe. So you got 40 hours. So I didn't show there, but you would also put start and test in there too. So right here you got your vendors. So let's say you got ABC vendor, and he bids $12,500, and you get another quote from another vendor, and he bids $13,000. You can see the spreadsheet has picked the low bid, $12,500. Between the two, it'll always pick the low, but once again, you can override it. Let's say you got a third vendor. Let's just call it vendor number 3. And we'll put him in at $12,002, which would make him low. And as you can see, the spreadsheet picked the low bidder. But once again, you can override it with anything you want. Just type it into the plug or quote yellow box there, and that will be the number that will be carried if you don't want to carry the low. Now, a great feature with this spreadsheet is that it'll calculate parameters for every one of these quotes that you put in. You put in the tons, you got 25 tons, it's telling you you're paying $520 a ton. And then CFM, you're going to have 10,000 CFM. So you're going to pay $1.30 a CFM based on the number you're carrying. And then there's 5 units, so it's $2,600 per air conditioner. It's just a nice quick parameter to check your historical data. Is this what we've paid in the past? Does this look like a fair number? And if it doesn't, then you can adjust your plug number or your quote number over there. Take a buyout by putting a lower number than what was bid. And basically you just keep going down, you just keep filling them out, and you just keep filling out those sheets. The next one you'll get is the sheet metal specialties. Now this is all the stuff that isn't your sheet metal ductwork and fittings. These are all the specialty items. Duct smoke detector, secondary drain pans, duct pressure testing, remote damper operators, roof duct supports, duct ID, seismic supports, cleaning, duct and fittings, access panel, supplemental steel. You just fill all that out. And what you got up here is you got a sheet metal shop fabrication, so you can put material and labor for your shop for each one of these, or you can put field material and labor, or you could put both if it applies. Like on smoke duct detectors here. Let's say that's 125 bucks a piece, and let's say an hour and a half to install. And you got 5 of them. So it'll automatically calculate and carry that forward on your estimate. So you just go down and you fill these out. Let's say secondary drain pans. Let's say you got 10 of those, and you're going to make them in the shop. Let's say it's $75 worth of material, and it's going to spend an hour and a half each making them. But in the field, you're going to have to hang it also, so you're going to need some time in the field. Let's say it's an hour. So you got some shop material, shop hours, field material, field hours. All that's going to get carried forward onto your sheet metal summary sheet. So you fill these out for the most common things you use. So as you see, that sheet metal specialties that came forward, there it is right there. $625 in material, 17.5 labor hours. This is for the field portion of it. You have the shop below, which we'll show in a minute. So your first category here will be your rectangular duct and fittings. You can put into linear feet. The more information you put in, the more you'll get parameters, which we'll show you on the right of the spreadsheet here. So you got 100 linear feet. You put that in. You put in the amount of hours. This is either coming from your estimating program or your manual takeoff. If you got an estimating program, great. It works good. We'll put the pounds in here so we can look at our parameters, what the parameters are. So if you look over here, it's saying we're doing 20 linear feet a man day. So you got to get used to looking at linear feet a man day or linear feet an hour, whichever. I like linear feet a man day. And if you want to make an adjustment, you can make it here. You say that's too fast or too slow. You can slow it down or speed it up. Here we're going to slow it down. We'll say it's too fast. That shows that we have a difference of 13.3 hours. This doesn't carry, so you got to carry this manually. So you add it right here to the productivity adjustment. So you put the 13.3 hours there. That makes your adjustment. That slows down your duct. And then all that, like I say, is on the summary sheet. This is your summary sheet. So on that also, below here now, we got material handling, consumables, your punch list, and your cleanup. These are all percentages. So material handling is what it takes to get all the material from the truck when it delivers it to the floor where it's going to be installed. And so eventually you should learn what these numbers are for your company. Material handling is usually pretty significant number. Consumables, that can be like whatever, your corner pieces, your gasket, your screws, duct tape, whatever you want your consumables are. Punch list, that's finishing out the job. There's always extra time for that. And then cleanup, cleaning up the job. Some projects make you do it daily, some weekly, but you'll have cleanup time. That's not part of the productivity of actually hanging duct. Detailing, we have a nice detailing calculator over here. It's got, items that you're going to occur to do detailing. So one is to become familiar with the project, drawing the floor and roof plans, doing details and equipment pads and wall and floor openings, as-built drawings, field detailing sheets, coordination. So you put how many hours you guys normally takes to do each one of these. I put some hours in there. You put it according to whatever your project or whatever your normal project takes. So, and then that'll calculate a percentage, and you can carry that percentage over here. And supervision also is a certain percentage, and that's a percentage of your labor totals. And then down below here, we have the sheet metal shop. So if you have your own fabrication shop, great. You can put the values in here, and you can check the parameters, make sure it matches the parameters of your shop productivity. So once again, let's say we have 100 feet. We're producing it in a shop. We have $800 worth of materials. So if you look over here on the metrics, you can see it's 80 cents a pound for just the material. It's $1.91 per pound for labor and material. And it's producing at almost 50 pounds an hour. So you would see if that's according to what your shop normally does and make an adjustment if you need to. Write down here, productivity adjustment. So that is so it matches your shop productivity. If you're buying all your material, then you won't worry about this. This is for those who have their own sheet metal shop. And you can put them separately. I like to do round separate from rectangular, which makes a lot of sense. So maybe even if you're buying your material, you can get some values. At least you can get the pounds from your fabrication shop, so you can use that as a parameter. Next, you got your HVAC piping specialties. So similar to sheet metal, you just list all your sheet metal specialty items. You got the shop and the field. So once again, you got material and labor, and you list all the items that you normally have for HVAC piping specialties. This is not your pipe, valves, and fittings. Those come from your estimating takeoff. And then once again, you're going to have a summary sheet for the HVAC piping like you did for the sheet metal. And you can do the same thing as you would do for sheet metal duct. You can do that for your pipe. So you can check on the parameters. You would put in how many linear feet of, keep your copper, keep your material separate. So here we got copper, let's say we have 1,000 feet and $8,400 in material. And we got 270 hours. All this came out of your estimating program or from your manual takeoff. Over here you can check, you can see you got $8.40 for material per linear foot. Labor and material is $24.60 a foot. And your productivity is 30 feet a man day. So once again, you can adjust this. You can say, is that too fast? Is that too slow? And then you would make an adjustment here. Well, let's say it's too fast, so we're going to slow it down a little bit. So it's going to say we need to add 50 hours. So we would have to come over here to the productivity adjustment line item and add those 50 hours. And that would get us to where we need to be. And then once again, you got material handling, consumables, punch list, cleanup. They're all percentages of the total labor value. Detailing once again, and supervision, and the detailing calculator, just like the sheet metal calculator. It's the same thing. It helps you come up with a percentage. And then plumbing specialties, same thing. You had sheet metal specialties, HVAC piping specialties, now you have plumbing specialties. So once again, down the left side here is all the specialty items that are not your normal pipe, valves, and fittings that you find in your takeoff. And again, you have shop fabrication and you have field. And on the right, I forgot to mention, this is where you can list where this item is found, whether in the spec or on the drawing. Now you have plumbing fixture. You have a separate tab for that. So this is where you list all your fixtures. I have the typical ones listed here. And so you can list whatever you want. You can rearrange this and list whatever your typical fittings are. You got roof drains. You got a bunch more fixtures below. You'll put the quantity of fixtures and you'll put the unit of labor to set that fixture. And then you'll have 3 columns to compare 3 different vendors on their bids. So let's say one's at $215, one's $225, one's $230. Off the right there you can't see, but you got 3 bids, and then you'll pick the lowest one and you'll carry that in your fixture cost here. You'll write it in here, and then that'll be what's carried in your estimate. So it gives you 3 columns to compare 3 different vendors. And then over here you have fixture value. So this will help you on your parameters to tell you how much per fixture it costs to install or purchase. So we have the major fixtures at 1, a value of 1, and drains at a half value. Then you have your plumbing equipment, just like you had your HVAC equipment. This will keep the 2 trades separate. So the plumbing sheet is equipment sheet is the same as the HVAC. You go to your plumbing equipment drawing and you start taking off all the plumbing equipment listed there, listed here. In this case, we've got a hot water storage tank, and it's storage tank 1 through 4. And then what you want to list here is the capacity, the size. So it gives you an idea when you go to labor it, how labor intensive it should be. There's a big difference between a 10-gallon tank and a 400-gallon tank. And so you put the quantity up there so it multiplies the labor correctly. And you say, well, it takes 8 hours each. So you got 4 of them. 4 times 8 is 32 hours. And then once again, you list your vendors, each vendor and his bid amount, remembering that it will always carry the low bid. And you can definitely overwrite that. As you see here, carried the low bid of $28,900. But like I said, on all of these, you can pick whatever number you want and it'll override the system's picking of the lowest price. So maybe the guy doesn't have everything in the specifications. Over here again, you have the quick parameter check. There's 4 of them, so basically you're paying $7,500 for these large hot water storage tanks. And you have other parameters. If you had horsepower or MBH, you could see how much it costs per horsepower or how much it costs per MBH, or whatever category you can use. You can use the other there to measure whatever parametric you want to measure. So each one of these is a long list here for, you can put as much equipment as you want. And then everything rolls over into your plumbing material and labor summary sheet. It carries over your equipment. You can see the specialties came over, the equipment labor came over, and the plumbing fixture labor came over. Those are 3 items that are automatically carried from those 3 separate sheets. They carry to the summary sheet. Now this is where you'll enter your pipe takeoff from either your estimating software program or your manual takeoff. So just like the sheet metal of the piping, you list how many linear feet that you had for each one of these categories. This is domestic water. Say you had 1,800 feet, $34,000 in material. And then you had 1,450 hours. So you can check right away on your parameters there. You can see $1,889 per foot for the material cost and $71.25 per linear foot for labor and material. And you got a productivity of 9.9 linear feet a man day, basically 10 feet a man day. And if you want to make an adjustment, you think it's too slow, then you can speed it up. And it tells you now you need to a negative 490. You need to deduct 490 feet. So you minus 400, not feet, hours. You minus 490 hours because you're speeding it up. The estimating program or your original hours was too slow. So you're taking hours out of the job. And once again, just like the HVAC, sheet metal, and piping material labor summary, you got material handling, consumables, punch list, cleanup, detailing, and supervision. And below on all of the sheets, you have a shop tab if you do prefab in the shop, which is a great idea because it saves labor, but you have to have the facility to do it. Now, all of this is going to roll over to your main summary sheet. So all that information, all those sheets now roll into this main estimate summary sheet. So this is where you got your project name at the top, the address, the customer, the delivery type, plan, and spec. And then you start looking at, you can look at, there's really nothing to do here because everything's rolling forward. This is all information coming from sheets that you've already filled out. The only thing you fill out here is the hourly rate for your detailer and your supervision. But everything else is already done. The labor rates for the shop and the field was done on your crew labor sheet. And then you put the size of the building, you put your CFM, and it gives you CFM per square foot, CFM per ton, how many tons, it tells you how many square foot per ton, and how many dollars per ton. MBH, 400, it tells you how many BTUs per square foot. Now these are good for when you do budgets. This will give you information for budgets. So there's your quantity of fixture value. So you have 12. So it tells you material cost per fixture was $3,226, and material and field labor cost is $9,980. Now that doesn't include equipment. So that's just a rough parameter so that you can start getting familiar with those values. Now as you go down, you got your air and water balance. That's if you're self-performing, your engineering, and there's your equipment and fixtures. It rolled forward here. There's nothing for you to do here. This is coming from your other sheets. And then your subcontracts. All that also comes from your subcontract sheet. But this brings it all to the front page so you can see everything in one place. And your general conditions. The top section there in yellow is coming from your general conditions sheet. So you can see we didn't fill out much on there. So the only thing we have is material and equipment tax. That's where your tax is going to show up. But you got permits, you got whatever down here, these empty spots here where you can put additional general conditions in. It gives you a subtotal, and then you can add a contingency, and then cost with contingency, and then you use your margin. So what margin do you want to make on the project? So if I went to 25, you can see the value increases, sales price increases. You can see the markup's 33%. So the markup is a function of the margin. So if you change the margin back to 20, you can see the markup's 25. So you should understand how that relationship works. And then there's just a little chart in here. It just shows you comparatively the sheet metal versus the piping, plumbing, the air and water, the engineering, the equipment, the subs, and the GC. Gives you an idea of where the total cost is going for the project. So that's it. It summarizes everything on this last page, and this is everything you need, be it a small job or a large project, from $1,000 to millions of dollars. Okay, so subscribe to our channel if you'd like to receive additional videos for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, engineering, or contracting.